You have clear priorities on paper, but your calendar doesn't seem to care. By Wednesday afternoon, the week has drifted. Meetings you didn't plan for, favors you vaguely agreed to, AI tools happily filling every gap with more activity, but not necessarily more impact. If you've ever looked at your week and thought, "This is not what I signed up for," that's not a willpower problem. That's a systems problem. More specifically, it's a constraint problem.
And the system is working, just not for you. Calendar gravity always pulls toward other people's priorities unless you wrap it in a few sharp constraints ahead of time. The system reveals the truth. If you don't set limits, your calendar becomes the default strategy of everyone around you.
Today, we are going to fix that by making drift structurally hard. The tool is what I call a constraint-bound calendar. It's a way to decide, in advance, exactly how much of your week is allowed to go to deep work, leadership, operations, and slack, and then make your tools respect those limits. One core idea, 3 moves: allocate, arm, and audit. By the end of this episode, you'll have a mechanism, not a hack, that keeps your week aligned with your real strategy, not everyone else's urgency. Clarity is leverage. This is how you embed it in your calendar itself.
So let's start with the mental flip. What is a constraint-bound calendar, really? Imagine your week is not an open canvas where anyone can paint. It's a set of pre-allocated containers with hard walls. Each container is a category of work with a defined maximum capacity, like saying leadership gets 8 hours, operations gets 10, deep work gets 12, and so on.
Right now, most calendars behave like, if there's white space, it's fair game. A constraint-bound calendar behaves like each category has a tank, and when the tank is full, you don't pour more into it. You either say no, you negotiate, or you move something out. This matters because your leverage is not evenly distributed. 90 minutes of deep work on the right problem can be worth more than 10 status meetings. But unless you pre-allocate capacity, the status meetings quietly eat the week.
And this isn't about perfection. You're not building a prison schedule. You're creating a simple set of constraints that shape the flow before chaos shows up. Patterns create power, so we're designing the pattern your week defaults to under pressure.
Let's go to move 1, allocate. This is where you decide the shape of the week on a single page. Take 4 categories. You can write these down later. Deep work, leadership, operations, optional or slack. Deep work, focused, non-interruptive work that moves the needle. Strategy docs, product thinking, complex analysis. Leadership, one-to-ones, key stakeholder meetings, hiring, coaching, decision reviews. Anything where you're shaping people and direction. Operations, recurring check-ins, status calls, process reviews, vendor management, the machine work that keeps things running. Optional or slack, buffer time, thinking walks, truly optional meetings, catch-up space for spillover.
Now, imagine a simple 2x2 grid on one page. Along the top, deep work and leadership. Along the bottom, operations and slack. Next to each, you write a hard number, the maximum hours you're willing to spend on that category in a normal week. If you work a roughly 45-hour week, maybe your first pass looks like deep work 12 hours, leadership 10, operations 15, slack 8. This is not sacred. This is a starting guess. Precision drives agency, but you don't get precision without a few iterations.
2 guardrails here so this doesn't become fantasy planning. First, base your initial caps on last week plus 1 small shift, not an idealized version of yourself. If you did 4 hours of deep work last week, don't jump to 20. Jump to 6 or 8 and prove it.
Second, slack is not optional. If you don't allocate slack, your reality will. The question is whether that slack is controlled buffer or unpredictable chaos.
Exactly. Think of Allocate as writing the contract for your week. You're telling your future self and your tools, these are the maximum containers, no more. If demand exceeds supply, something has to move. The constraint is the feature.
Move 2. ARM. This is where most systems die. People make nice grids, then throw them into a drawer. ARM means you encode those caps into your environment, so enforcement is automated, not willpower-based.
4 places to arm your constraints.
First, your calendar itself. You block your deep work hours for the week before anything else goes in. Label them clearly: deep work strategy or deep work product. Then you protect them the way you would an investor meeting.
Second, meeting length and defaults. Shorten the default. If your organization lives on 60-minute meetings, change your personal default to 25 or 50 minutes. Make it slightly harder to book long sessions with you by default. The system will adapt.
Third, scheduling links. This is where people silently lose entire days. Instead of one generic link, create category-specific links that map to your caps.
For example, a Leadership 101 link that only offers slots within your leadership block windows and only up to your weekly hour cap. An external intro link that routes only into your Slack category and maybe caps at 2 hours a week. When the slots are gone, they're gone.
And fourth, your AI tools and assistants. This is the new leverage point most people ignore. You can literally tell your AI scheduling agent, your human assistant, or both, classify every request into deep work, leadership, operations, or Slack, and do not exceed these weekly caps without explicit approval. That one instruction changes the default from, sure, I'll squeeze it in, to this has to displace something else. The system will start pushing trade-offs to the surface instead of hiding them in your calendar.
The key principle in ARM is simple. Your tools should feel the constraint before you do. If you're relying on yourself to remember the caps in real time, you will lose under pressure. Move 3. Audit. This is the Friday check that keeps the system honest and makes it smarter every week.
Here's the 10-minute version. At the end of the week, export your calendar or give your AI assistant access. Ask it to classify every event into one of the 4 categories: deep work, leadership, operations, Slack. Then have it total the hours in each bucket and compare them to your caps.
You'll see something interesting right away. The numbers reveal your real strategy, not the one in your head. Maybe you said you cared about deep work, but your calendar shows 4 hours of it and 18 hours of operations. The system reveals the truth.
Then you ask your AI 2 questions. 1. Where did I violate my own caps and why? 2. What concrete constraint or default could I add next week to prevent that specific leakage?
Maybe it tells you 3 ad hoc status meetings pushed operations over the limit. Your fix might be convert those into one recurring block or route them through your operations lead instead of you.
Or it might highlight that your deep work blocks keep getting preempted by urgent leadership asks. That's a signal to tighten the rules. Maybe you add a policy with your assistant. Deep work blocks are only interruptible for 3 categories of escalation, and everything else gets pushed.
Allocate, ARM, Audit. That's the loop. The first week, your caps will be wrong. That's fine. The goal is not instant perfection. It's directional control that compounds.
Let's make this concrete with 3 quick profiles: a founder, a VP of operations, and an independent operator. Same structure,
different cap shapes.
First, the founder of a 20-person product company. Their leverage tends to concentrate in vision, product, and key relationships. A reasonable starting grid for a 50-hour week might look like deep work, 16 hours, leadership, 14, operations, 10, Slack, 10.
Deep work blocks are used for product strategy, key design decisions, or fundraising prep. Leadership is one-on-ones, investor calls, and high-stakes customer conversations. Operations is kept deliberately lean. Slack gives room for surprises, because in Founderland, there are always surprises.
Now, a VP of operations in a larger org, say a few hundred people, their calendar gravity pulls hard toward operations. So their grid might be deep work 8 hours, leadership 14, operations 18, Slack 5 for a 45-hour week. The constraint for them is often don't let operations consume all thinking time. So they arm deep work blocks first, maybe 2 4-hour strategy windows. And in Audit, they watch like a hawk for operations creeping into those slots.
For an independent operator, a solo consultant or fractional exec, you often see more client variability. So a 40-hour week might start as deep work 10, leadership 6, operations 12, Slack 12.
Slack matters more here because deal flow, proposals, and client fire drills can spike. The point is not to maximize every hour. It's to keep enough uncommitted capacity that you can say yes to high-leverage opportunities without blowing up your system.
Notice what stayed the same across all 3. 4 categories, explicit caps, and tools that enforce those caps by default. The structure is stable. The ratios are personal.
A few failure modes to watch for so you don't sabotage this. First, aspirational caps. If your grid completely ignores current commitments, your calendar will revolt, and you'll declare the system broken. Start conservative. Move the needle by 10 to 20% from reality, then tighten after a few audits.
Second, encoding only on paper. If your caps live in a notebook, but your calendar, links, and AI don't know they exist, you're still running on hope. The enforcement has to live where the requests enter the system.
Third, ignoring the constraints under pressure. There will be weeks where everything feels urgent. That's exactly when the system is earning its keep. If you always override the caps just this once, you don't have constraints. You have suggestions.
And finally, letting AI add complexity instead of enforcing simplicity. If your AI is generating more meetings, more tasks, more noise without honoring your caps, it's working against your agency. Your instructions should be boringly clear. Classify, respect caps, escalate trade-offs.
Let's land this with one concrete action you can take in the next few minutes.
Grab a single sheet or a blank note and draw a 4-cell grid. Label the cells Deep Work, Leadership, Operations, Slack. Write your current best guess hour caps for a normal week, not your fantasy week, next week.
Then open your calendar for next week and make one pass. Block your deep work first, adjust a few meetings to respect your caps, and if you use scheduling links or an assistant, update at least one of them to reflect those limits.
On Friday, run a quick audit, even if it's just you manually scanning your calendar and tallying categories. Ask, where did reality ignore the contract? And what constraint can I add so that next week drift is slightly harder? If this briefing helped you see your calendar as a leverage system instead of a passive log, make your next move count. Follow or subscribe to the Agentic Executive so these 10-minute operating upgrades keep showing up for you automatically. You're not going to outrun calendar gravity with willpower, but you can outdesign it with a few sharp constraints. Until next time, stay agentic.